comment section. Ask you to come forward orderly. Maybe if you just raise your hand, I'll acknowledge you, and we'll have you come forward in that order. State your name. We're going to have a timer. Like to say, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you have comments that have already been expressed, maybe you could just come and say, I reference Neil Anderton's comments and agree with those, so that we're not too redundant in our comments. So, look like Neil, you had your hand up first, so I'll acknowledge you.
Thanks, Council, for allowing us to come and comment tonight. Neil Anderton, 9200 East Lake Pines Drive. Great, that's not Anderson. I wonder about the motivation behind this, and a little bit of that was explained by Councilman Price. And it seems to me like the motivation for this to come forth tonight was given by a few, but my concern is the inevitable, and that is the projected growth in this county. It was projected that we're not too far down the road, there's going to be 50,000 residents here. Where are we going to put those people? And you know, setting aside the aesthetic value and the property rights of the owners there, I think we have to take a look at what's being proposed. And my concern is this: is this the beginning where we're going to start zoning this down to where we have high density in that area? Who's to know? You know, council down the road, 5 years, 10 years from now. If you go 10 tonight, it might go 5, and it might have 5 was proposed last year, and it didn't go. We know. Could it be 1? Is this where we want our growth? In the Northfields. You know, we know growth is controlled by zoning. That's one way to do it. And so that's my big concern. I also wonder about the decision that was already pointed out. The 3-2 decision is noted is not a majority on a 7-member board. And I also have the understanding that one of those yea votes has a vested interest, either directly or indirectly, in this area. So I think it even makes it more flawed of that vote. And I'm glad that 2 of the members recused themselves, you know, from voting on that. Here again, the county plan. I don't think it's changed any from last year. It looks the same to me. You have all the infrastructure concerns, the water table, everything else going through there. So why do we need to look at sizing this to 10-acre parcels now? I would appeal to you individually and as a council, as a body, the governing body of this county, to use a sense of good governance here. What's the urgency? Why do we need to do this now? I think we need to step back and take a look. Okay? And it's already been done for many years. So I would ask you to vote no to this proposal tonight. I think there's a lot of reasons to stand for that. So I would appeal to you on those grounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Let me clarify one thing Neil said. Our county attorney's office has prepared a conflict letter for all of us. I think that was taken by the Planning Commission also. It was determined that there was not a conflict of interest there. We've all been made aware of it here on the council and determined that there's no conflicts of interest at this council either. Just let me clarify that. We have been provided the law and how it states from our county attorney. We've discussed that as a council. So just clarify that one. Next, please, Colleen.
Colleen Bonner, 60 South Center, Midway, Utah. I'm actually here to read a letter from George Hansen first. And he was on that committee 10 years ago when they talked about the rezone then. And it just says about 10 years ago, the county appointed a committee of citizens representatives. So basically, everything that was already said, so I'll just kind of skip over that. But it was recommended that they don't rezone it, they did say that we did make a strong recommendation to use transfer of development rights as a tool to allow the landowners there to continue to reap the benefit of ownership and use while getting full value for the development rights to the developing areas in or near the cities. This should still be the preferred course of action. Very little has changed since then. People still flock to Beaver Valley with their taxable dollars, mostly because of the clean air and the views and the agricultural lands, recreation opportunities, and the rural feel. Even though we are a bedroom community, our planning fathers have been very successful in preserving that agricultural and rural feel. That feel is preserved in the state park and the DWR, Division of Wildlife Resource foothills, to our northwest and south, and to our open Northfields and Southfields corridor. To erode that corridor will indeed be the beginning of the end. The development of the Northfields will not only severely erode our tourism economic base, but will lead to considerably more traffic. This will not only affect quality of life, but more importantly, will soon become a public health issue as our air quality quickly degrades to that of the Wasatch Front. Again, very little has changed since the in-depth studies. If we think that something has, we should, as a minimum, re-quantify those issues, and I am willing and ready to lend in my knowledge and experience in that effort. The best path forward, however, would simply be to pick up where we left off and begin to take proactive steps to affect those transfer of development rights plans. So anyway, George asked me if I would read this, and then just as Mayor of Midway, I think the corridor is a very valuable part for our whole community. You guys have a tough job. It's hard. I don't own land out there, so I, just understand where the pressure's coming from. But just be wise in your decision, and maybe don't make a decision tonight. Really think about it and really look at the studies and stuff that have been done in the past. Thanks. I'm going to give this letter. Yes, I'm going to give that letter.
Yes, ma'am, you're on the front.
I do own property in the Northfields. I'm Mary Schwartz, SCHWRTZ. My family of 25 grandkids and 5 kids. We're known as Heritage Family Holdings. We love the Northfields. What I'd like to say to you is a decision to change that is irreversible. And I haven't heard anybody talk about that. You vote yes, you never have another chance. So I really beg you to know how valuable that is. It might benefit a few property owners. It could benefit me. But I really, really oppose it. And I think it would be to the detriment of so many people who love and live in and come to your beautiful agricultural open space. Thank you.
Please, we're not going to have clapping. I see a hand back here in the corner. Yes, ma'am.
She can see her. She turns.
I'm David Frandsen, F-R-A-N-D-S-E-N. I live out in the Northfields after 17 years now. I want to also express the feelings that these Northfields are the jewel of Beaver Valley. Everyone I talk to that loves Beaver Valley and are coming into it, visiting, spending their money, they all comment on how beautiful it is as they approach the valley. And as others have said, once we start this rezoning, it's going to continue. It's going to be 5 acres and so on. I've been to many other countries, and I'm sure many of you have, and zoning has been a great way of maintaining the beauty of that country. I think of Germany and France and other European countries. When you reach the end of the city limits, the country starts, and you have wooded areas and green pasture areas. You don't have urban sprawl all over. If we start this, we're going to end up looking like Orem, and our beauty and the reason we come to live here is not going to be maintained. We're going to just be another urban sprawl city. And the taxpayers are going to end up spending a lot more because the visitors don't come anymore, and it's lost its uniqueness. So I urge the council to be careful what you're doing. Be aware that this is something, as Mary said, it's irreversible. It's just going to lead to more rezoning and smaller lots. I thank you for the opportunity to address you.
My name's Mike Kosakowski. Everybody on this side of the room knows me pretty well. I attended the zoning meeting, or the commission, planning commission meeting. Give you a little background. I've lived here going on 10 years. My background here goes back many decades before that. I have property out of state that is very similar to what you have here. Of course, nowhere as large, but I do have a septic system in a wetland. I've worked for 32 years, over 32 years with the Environmental Protection Agency. Most of that has been in situations like this, where you have wetlands or high groundwater. You've done a study here a dozen years ago, done a technical study. If you consider that looking at the health of this area on its own, you've already come to a conclusion there. Lastly, my qualifications, I'm the chairman of that precinct. That precinct's entirely within our area and some of the other members here. And I'd have to ask council that given the history of this site, given if you consider the health of this wetland or a near wetland, that you make a wise decision here. I personally oppose any change to what you have.